The snow fell gently on the city streets, transforming the December evening into something almost magical. The Christmas lights strung along the buildings cast warm pools of gold and amber across the sidewalks where last-minute shoppers hurried past, their arms full of packages and their faces bright with anticipation. Harrison Cole sat alone at a small table outside the cafe, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. At 41, he was the CEO of one of the most successful tech companies in the country, a man whose name appeared regularly in business journals and whose opinions moved markets. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, his dark hair styled in a way that suggested both success and careful attention to detail. He had everything most people dreamed of: a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a car that cost more than most houses, investments that would keep him comfortable for several lifetimes, success beyond measure. And yet, as Christmas Eve approached, Harrison found himself sitting alone on a street corner, watching other people celebrate, while he had nowhere to go and no one waiting for him. His parents had passed away years ago within months of each other, leaving him an only child with no immediate family. His ex-wife had left him 5 years earlier, tired of coming second to his work, tired of the long hours and missed anniversaries and the way he checked his phone during dinner. She'd remarried last year to a teacher, someone who would be home for dinner every night. And Harrison had seen the wedding announcement on social media and felt nothing, just emptiness. He had colleagues, certainly, people who respected his business acumen, who sought his advice, who valued his leadership. But friends, real friends who called just to see how he was doing, who remembered his birthday, who invited him to their homes. Those had fallen away over the years, casualties of his single-minded focus on success. So here he was on Christmas Eve, sitting outside a cafe because going back to his empty apartment felt unbearable. He'd told himself he was just taking a break from holiday shopping, but the truth was he had no one to shop for. The gifts he'd ordered for his employees had been handled by his assistant, wrapped and delivered without his involvement. Harrison watched a family pass by, parents holding hands, children laughing, everyone bundled against the cold and glowing with happiness. He felt something twist in his chest. This was his life now: success and solitude, achievement and emptiness. He was about to stand up, to return to the office where at least work would distract him, when a small voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mister, why are you sitting all alone?" Harrison looked down to find a little girl standing beside his table. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old, with blonde curls escaping from beneath a knit hat. She wore a dark gray coat over a red dress, and in her arms she clutched a brown teddy bear that looked well-loved and well-worn. "Hello?" Harrison said, automatically scanning the area for a parent. "Where's your family?" "Right there!" The girl pointed to a woman about 30 feet away, loading shopping bags into the trunk of an old car. "That's my mommy." "I'm Emma. What's your name?" "Harrison." "That's a very fancy name," Emma said seriously. "Are you waiting for someone?" "No, I'm just having coffee." "All by yourself? On Christmas Eve?" Emma's blue eyes were wide with what looked like genuine concern. "That's very sad." Harrison felt his throat tighten unexpectedly. "It's fine. I'm fine. Mommy says that nobody should be alone on Christmas. She says Christmas is about family and love and being together." Emma tilted her head, studying him with the frank assessment only children possess. "Do you have a family?" "Not really," Harrison admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. "Then you should come have party at my place," Emma announced, as if this solved everything. "We're having turkey and pie, and Mommy made cookies that look like Christmas trees. You can come." Before Harrison could respond, the woman Emma had pointed to approached, looking apologetic and slightly worried. "Emma, I told you to stay by the car." "I'm so sorry, sir," she said to Harrison. "My daughter has no sense of stranger danger. Come on, sweetie, let's not bother this man." "But Mommy, he's all alone on Christmas. We have to invite him." The woman, Emma's mother, looked at Harrison properly for the first time, and he saw her take in his expensive suit, his polished appearance, the aura of success that clung to him like cologne. Her expression became more guarded. "I'm sure this gentleman has plans, Emma." "He doesn't." "He said he doesn't have family." Harrison saw the woman's face change, sympathy warring with suspicion. He understood. He was a stranger, well-dressed but alone, and her daughter had just revealed he had no family. It probably looked suspicious. "It's all right," Harrison said, standing. "Emma was just being kind." "I appreciate the thought. But I'm sure your family has their own celebration planned." "It's just us," Emma said. "Me and Mommy and Grandma Rose. But Mommy says 3 is a party. So 4 would be an even better party." "Emma," her mother said, torn between teaching her daughter generosity and protecting her from a stranger. Harrison looked at this woman, really looked at her for the first time. She was probably in her early 30s, with the kind of tired eyes that spoke of long days and hard work. Her coat was threadbare, her jeans worn, her boots scuffed. But she carried herself with dignity, and when she looked at her daughter, her face transformed with love. "I'm Harrison Cole," he said, extending his hand. "I promise I'm not dangerous, just a workaholic with no social life. Your daughter took pity on me." The woman hesitated, then shook his hand. Her grip was firm despite her small hand. "Jennifer Banks. And yes, my daughter has a habit of adopting strays. Last week it was a cat. This week apparently it's you." Harrison surprised himself by smiling. "I've been called worse things." Jennifer studied him for a long moment, and Harrison saw the moment she made her decision. Maybe it was the loneliness she saw in his eyes. Maybe it was the Christmas spirit. Maybe it was just that her daughter was looking up at her with such hope. "All right," she said finally. "Our apartment isn't fancy, and dinner won't be anything special. But you're welcome to join us if you really have nowhere else to be." "Mommy, really?" Emma bounced with excitement. "Really? But Mr. Cole might not want to." "I'd love to," Harrison heard himself say. "If you're sure it's not an imposition." "It's Christmas Eve," Jennifer said simply. "Nobody should be alone." And that's how Harrison Cole, CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, found himself following a beat-up Honda Civic across town to a neighborhood he'd never been to, carrying a teddy bear that Emma had insisted he hold, while she helped her mother with the shopping bags. Jennifer's apartment was in an older building, the kind that had character but needed updating. The elevator was broken, so they climbed 3 flights of stairs, Emma chattering the entire way about what they were going to do at the party and how Mr. Harrison was going to love Grandma Rose's pie. The apartment itself was small but warm, decorated with obvious care despite limited resources. A Christmas tree stood in the corner, handmade ornaments and strings of lights making it beautiful despite its modest size. The furniture was old but clean, and everywhere Harrison looked, he saw signs of love, photos of Emma at various ages, drawings hung on the refrigerator, books piled on shelves. An older woman appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She had gray hair and kind eyes, and she looked at Harrison with surprise. "Mom, this is Harrison Cole. Emma invited him for dinner." "Harrison, this is my mother, Rose." Rose's eyebrows went up, but she recovered quickly. "Well then, welcome, Harrison. The more the merrier." "Emma, go wash your hands. Dinner's almost ready." As Emma scampered off, Rose gave Harrison a measuring look. "I raised my daughter to be cautious about strangers. I assume you have a good explanation for how you ended up here?" "Your granddaughter found me feeling sorry for myself outside a cafe," Harrison said honestly. "She decided I needed rescuing." "Emma has a big heart," Rose said. "Sometimes bigger than her common sense." "Jennifer, you sure about this?" "He's alone on Christmas, Mom. What was I supposed to do?" Rose nodded slowly. "All right then. Harrison, I hope you like turkey." Dinner was nothing like the business dinners Harrison usually attended. There was no formal seating arrangement, no studied conversation, no careful positioning. Instead, there was Emma talking nonstop about her day at preschool, Jennifer gently reminding her to eat her vegetables, Rose telling stories about Christmases past. The food was simple but delicious. Turkey that was slightly dry but seasoned perfectly, mashed potatoes that Rose swore were better with extra butter, green beans that Emma picked around, and rolls that Jennifer admitted came from the bakery because she'd run out of time to make them from scratch. It was the best meal Harrison had eaten in years. "So what do you do, Harrison?" Rose asked as they ate. "You're dressed pretty fancy for someone with nowhere to go on Christmas." "Mom," Jennifer said warningly. "It's all right," Harrison said. "I run a tech company. Software development. I'm good at my job, but apparently not so good at maintaining relationships. Hence the spending Christmas Eve alone at a cafe." "What happened?" Rose asked bluntly. "You get so focused on work you forgot to live?" "Mom!" "It's okay. Harrison said again, surprised by how comfortable he felt with this family's directness. And yes, that's exactly what happened. I built a company but forgot to build a life. By the time I looked up, everyone had moved on without me. It's not too late, Rose said. You're what, 40? 45? 41? Plenty of time to fix things. If you want to. Do you want to? Emma asked, her blue eyes serious. Want to fix things? Harrison looked at this little girl who'd seen a lonely stranger and decided to help. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I do. After dinner, they moved to the small living room. Emma insisted Harrison sit in the best chair, a worn recliner that was clearly Rose's usual spot, while she set up her favorite Christmas movie. Jennifer brought out cookies and hot chocolate, apologizing that the cookies were store-bought because she'd been working late all week. I'm a nurse at County Hospital, she explained. We're always short-staffed during the holidays, so I've been pulling double shifts. My ex-husband doesn't help much with expenses, so she shrugged, not self-pitying, just stating facts. I think these cookies are perfect, Harrison said, and meant it. As they watched the movie, Emma gradually migrated from her spot on the floor to Harrison's lap, her teddy bear clutched in her arms. She fell asleep halfway through, and Harrison found himself holding this small, trusting child and feeling something crack open inside his chest. When was the last time someone had needed him for something other than a business decision? When was the last time someone had wanted his presence? Just for the sake of having him there? I can take her, Jennifer said quietly, noticing Emma was asleep. It's okay, Harrison said. She's fine where she is. After the movie ended, Rose declared it was her bedtime and disappeared into one of the 2 bedrooms. Jennifer brought out more coffee, and she and Harrison talked quietly while Emma slept, her small weight warm and solid in his arms. I'm sorry if we ambushed you, Jennifer said. Emma means well, but I know having a strange man in our apartment probably isn't the smartest thing I've ever done. I'm glad she did, Harrison said honestly. I was sitting at that cafe thinking about how I'd managed to achieve everything I thought I wanted and end up with nothing that actually matters. Your daughter reminded me that people still do kind things, that generosity still exists. She's special, Jennifer said, her voice soft with love. After her father left, after we lost the house and had to move here, I was so angry at him, angry at the world, angry at how unfair everything felt. But Emma never lost her joy. She adapted. She made the best of it. She found happiness in small things. She taught me how to do that too. How old was she when he left? 2. He said fatherhood wasn't what he expected, that he'd made a mistake, that he needed to find himself. Last I heard, he'd found himself in Arizona with a new girlfriend and no interest in his daughter. Jennifer's voice was matter of fact. But Harrison heard the old pain underneath. We managed fine without him. You're doing an incredible job. Emma is amazing. Thank you. That means a lot. They talked for another hour. About Jennifer's work at the hospital, about Harrison's company, about the challenges of single parenthood, and the emptiness of success without connection. Harrison found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone, his regrets about his marriage, his loneliness, his growing realization that he'd been living wrong. It's not too late, Jennifer said, echoing her mother's words. You can change direction at any time. It just takes courage to admit you want something different. Eventually, Harrison had to leave. Jennifer gently transferred Emma to her own bed, and the little girl stirred just enough to say, You'll come back, Mr. Harrison? For more parties? I'd like that, Harrison said, surprised by how much he meant it. Jennifer walked him to the door. Thank you for being so kind to Emma tonight, and for being honest with us. I know our little apartment and simple dinner probably weren't what you're used to, but it was perfect, Harrison interrupted. Truly, this has been the best Christmas Eve I've had in years, maybe ever. You're welcome back anytime, Jennifer said. Emma will be asking about you, and I've learned it's easier to just give in to what she wants. Harrison left that night with Jennifer's phone number programmed into his phone and an invitation to stop by on Christmas Day if he wanted to. He did want to, very much. Back in his penthouse apartment, Harrison looked around at his expensive furniture, his state-of-the-art kitchen that he never used, his master bedroom that felt more like a hotel room than a home. Everything was perfect, beautiful, and utterly empty. He thought about Jennifer's small apartment, about the worn furniture and handmade decorations and the love that filled every corner. He thought about Emma falling asleep in his lap with complete trust. He thought about Rose's blunt wisdom and Jennifer's tired eyes that still held kindness. He thought about what real wealth looked like and realized it had nothing to do with his bank account. Christmas Day, Harrison showed up at Jennifer's apartment with more food than 3 people could reasonably eat: a honey-baked ham, sides from a gourmet grocery store, and desserts from the best bakery in the city. He'd also brought presents: a professional-grade first aid kit for Jennifer, a warm wool shawl for Rose and for Emma, a collection of books, and a new teddy bear to keep her old one company. "You didn't have to do all this," Jennifer protested, but she was smiling. "I wanted to," Harrison said simply. "You invited me into your home, you shared your family with me. This is the least I could do." Emma was delighted with her presence, but what she seemed most excited about was simply that he'd come back. "I told Mommy you would," she announced. "I said Mr. Harrison was nice and he'd come back for more parties." Over the next few months, Harrison did come back. Not every day, but regularly. He'd stop by on weekends, sometimes bringing dinner, sometimes just showing up to spend time with Emma while Jennifer worked her shifts. He helped Emma with art projects, read her bedtime stories, attended her preschool performances. He and Jennifer grew closer too. What started as friendship gradually became something deeper. They went on dates, real dates where Harrison turned off his phone and focused completely on the woman across from him. They talked about their pasts, their mistakes, their hopes for the future. 6 months after that Christmas Eve, Harrison made a decision. He didn't quit his job, he was still good at it. Still found satisfaction in it, but he restructured his life. He hired a COO to handle day-to-day operations. He set boundaries around his work hours. He stopped checking email at dinner and stopped taking calls during Emma's bedtime stories. He also bought a house, not a showplace, not a status symbol, but a home. It had 4 bedrooms, a backyard, and a kitchen big enough for family dinners. He bought it in the same neighborhood as Jennifer's apartment, close enough that Emma could walk to her old friends' houses, close enough that Rose could visit easily. A year after that Christmas Eve, Harrison and Jennifer were married in a small ceremony in the backyard of their new home. Emma served as flower girl, carrying her original teddy bear down the aisle with great seriousness. Rose stood as Jennifer's maid of honor, dabbing at her eyes and declaring she'd known from the beginning that Harrison was a good one. In his vows, Harrison talked about being lost and being found, about a little girl who'd seen a lonely stranger and decided to help, about learning that real wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the people you love. "I thought I had everything," he said, looking at Jennifer and Emma. "But I had nothing. You taught me what actually matters. You gave me a family, a home, a reason to leave the office at 5 o'clock. You saved my life." "We saved each other," Jennifer said in her vows. "You gave Emma the father figure she needed. You gave me a partner, someone who shows up and stays. You gave us security and stability and love. We were managing before, but now we're thriving." Years later, when Emma was older and asked about how her parents had met, they would tell her about that Christmas Eve, about a lonely CEO sitting outside a cafe and a little girl who decided he needed an invitation. "You saw someone who needed help and you helped them," Jennifer would say. "That's what compassion looks like." "I wasn't trying to help," Emma would always protest. "I just thought he looked sad and everybody should have a party on Christmas." "Sometimes the best help is when we're not trying to help," Harrison would say. "Sometimes it's just seeing someone and deciding they matter." Because that's what Emma had done. She'd seen a stranger, a man who had everything and nothing, and she'd decided he mattered enough to invite home. She'd offered her family her Christmas dinner, her simple joy, and in doing so, she'd given him something far more valuable than any business deal or investment could provide. She'd given him a reason to come home. Harrison never forgot that Christmas Eve, never took for granted the gift that small girl had given him. Every year on Christmas Eve, he'd take Emma, and later, Emma's younger siblings, to that same cafe, and they'd look for someone sitting alone. Sometimes they'd find someone. Sometimes they wouldn't. But they always looked, because Emma had taught him that sometimes the most important thing you can do is see someone's loneliness and decide to do something about